Nearly 4 months before its release, we've already got the first trailer for Skeleton Crew. I would definitely call it more of a teaser. We get a taste of the story, but I think this first look is more about setting the vibe and tone of the series. Right off the bat, I was reminded of movies like E.T., The Goonies, and Stand By Me, which is exactly what it should be doing. Skeleton Crew has long been described as an Amblin-style story, and I think they're nailing that. We start with the character Wim lying in bed looking at his toy spaceships, giving us the sense that he is longing for something more. Classic Star Wars, I figure this is his version of Luke staring off into the binary sunset. He goes off to school in a bus, has to worry about a big standardized test. It's all very normal, except for the fact that he's also surrounded by aliens and droids. I will say I think seeing the suburbs of Star Wars will take some getting used to for me. We spend most of our time in either the very rich or very poor parts of the galaxy. We've got Coruscant, Hosnian Prime, and Alderaan on one side, and then Tatooine and all the places the Rebellion hides out on the other. It makes complete sense that there would be a middle class in the galaxy. Having suburbs will definitely serve the Amblin feeling. Many of those kids on bike stories start off with their boring normal lives. This is just a new side of Star Wars that might feel a little too normal to me right now, but I think that's the point. I doubt we'll be spending a whole lot of time there, because Wim is longing for a real adventure. He's tired of playing pretend and using his imagination. He's looking at hollow stories about the Jedi. They're setting him up to be very relatable, since so many Star Wars fans grew up having those same fantasies. Wim may have found what he's after when he announces to his friends that he found something buried in the woods and they all head off to see it. That's very Stand By Me, a bunch of kids on a more simple quest that will inevitably change their lives. Fortunately, they're not looking for a dead body this time around, although they definitely find one. The rest of Wim's group includes Neil, who looks a lot like Max Rebo. I keep going back and forth on whether or not he's meant to be an Ortolan. There are some very clear similarities, but also some key differences, like the fact that he has arms. Either way, he's cute, and I've already seen a lot of love for the character. Fern seems like she might be the skeptic of the group. Like Wim, she seems like she's hungry for excitement, riding her speeder bike or speeder bicycle. Whatever we're calling those bikes, she rides hers pretty recklessly through traffic. The final kid is named KB. Fans have been wondering if she's a near-human species called a Miraluka because she has the visor, but it appears to be an accessory of some sort, so I think she's just a human. I get the sense that she's the more buttoned-up, proper one of the group, kind of like Hermione and Harry Potter. The kids find an old hatch buried in the ground, which is taking me back to the fun mystery of watching Lost when it was premiering. Wim thinks it's a lost Jedi temple, which I love. Having read the series synopsis, I know it's a buried ship, but Wim has this specific fantasy he's hoping to fulfill. He wants it to be a Jedi temple, so that's what he assumes it is. But they accidentally turn the ship on, it launches and takes them into hyperspace, maybe for the first time in their entire lives. We next see a quick montage of locations the ship takes them. The ship is called the Onyx Cinder, by the way, at least according to the LEGO set. I'm guessing the first location is connected to the pirates we first met in The Mandalorian Season 3. The black and white striped paint scheme is similar to Gorian Shard's ship. We also know that Vane will be returning in this series, along with several other pirate characters, including a droid, a Gran, and a Shistavenin. Another planet is covered in mountains, and I think the kids are looking at a mining site of some kind. I'm not quite sure what to make of that yet, but at some point it looks like the mining machine is trying to eat the Onyx Cinder. It looks like there might be a bunch of garbage lying around the ship, so this could be a junkyard planet like Lotho Minor, which was also covered in mountains of trash and had fire-breathing incinerator droids. Later on, we see a giant crab-like monster that I think is on the same planet because it seems to be covered in garbage, including an astromech droid. There's a cantina or building that's full of creatures and aliens like Jawas, and apparently a creature from Captain EO, which I've never seen, and also this little owl person. They immediately reminded me of Archimedes from The Sword and the Stone, a movie I loved growing up. The one-eyed droid, who I think is SM-33 or SME, tells the kids to trust no one. According to an interview in People magazine, SM-33 is voiced by Nick Frost and is a rusty old cranky droid that reluctantly helps the kids during their adventure. He's the first mate of a mysterious ship, which I assume is the Onyx Cinder. We see a bit of Wim opening fire in one of the gun turrets, and finally KB on a planet with X-Wings flying overhead. Our last little bit introduces Jude Law's character, Jod Nanawwood, which is a name I'm still adjusting to. He uses the Force to pull a key into a cell he apparently shares with the kids, dramatically pulling off his hood to reveal his face. Wim assumes he's a Jedi, but right now, I'm not buying it. Maybe he's Force sensitive, maybe he actually is a Jedi in hiding, but I could see him being a trickster more in line with Haja from Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm probably going to read into the trailer too much here, but it is Wim who proclaims, "You're a Jedi," and he's the same kid who incorrectly assumed he had found a Jedi temple when it was actually an old pirate ship. Jude Law described his character a bit in that People interview, stating that Jod is someone who uses quick thinking, charm, and conversation to get out of all sorts of scenarios. That sounds more like Han Solo than a hidden Jedi. I admit that I personally don't really want him to be yet another Jedi or former Jedi that's been hiding or missing for several decades. We've already got Ahsoka, Ezra, and Baylan Skoll running around at this point in the timeline, so instead I kinda like the idea that he might just be a Force-sensitive person that maybe hasn't found a noble way to use his abilities yet, and these kids might provide him with that purpose. Law also said that the series is about working together and overcoming fears and overcoming one's opinion of oneself or one's own weaknesses in order to succeed. I have a feeling he's describing Jod with that sentence. So as far as this trailer goes, that's all we have to talk about. I'm going to dive a little more into what we saw well over a year ago at Star Wars Celebration London, because I think it'll be important, but as far as a first teaser goes, I liked this. I think the general tone of the series is charming. If the writers and directors can pull off the same feeling of those Amblin movies that are, sure, about kids, but are also completely enjoyable by adults, that's a genre I think will fit well within the Star Wars universe. And there are some really solid directors in the lineup, including the Daniels, John Watts, and Bryce Dallas Howard. I wish we got a little more about the story, but we're almost 4 months away from the release date. There's plenty of time for more trailers to come along and fill us in, and I hope they spend some decent time marketing this series. It's part of the Mandoverse New Republic era, but these are new characters and a new type of Star Wars story, at least in live action. I think Skeleton Crew could use the extra time. All we know right now is that the kids are lost and they need to get home. This teaser was almost entirely told from their perspective, but what I recall from the footage we saw at Star Wars Celebration London was a split focus on their parents as well. Just like in E.T., of course we see Elliot and his bond with E.T., and his sister and his brother, and the kids on bikes save the day at the end. But it's also a story about Elliot's mother, who is going through a divorce and raising 3 kids on her own, and then the government invades her home, and there's an alien here? So we're not only going to see the kids on their adventure, we're going to see their parents desperate to find them. And I remember seeing more of the middle class of Star Wars and the parents working in their middle management jobs with space cubicles and stuff. I kinda got the sense that they may have worked as part of the New Republic and they were having trouble breaking through the bureaucracy to actually get some help finding their missing children. I'll put a link to our video originally breaking down all that celebration footage in the cards, because it has been a long time since we've seen all that. I just rewatched our breakdown to refresh my memory. Skeleton Crew was originally supposed to come out around the 2023 holiday season. It was delayed an entire year because this does seem like a good series the family could all watch together. I'm also gonna keep holding on to my theory that Life Day will be part of the story somehow. Like, the kids go missing and they want to get home for the holiday just to add to those silly stakes, but I didn't see any Life Day lights out on any houses and nobody was walking around wearing red robes, so I'm probably wrong. So far, I think Skeleton Crew looks like a fun watch. It's not screaming Star Wars at me, but I think that's because these kids are on their normal planet longing to be a part of Star Wars, if that makes sense. I'm open to trying something a little different. I also think that there's a chance this series could feel more like a TV show than The Acolyte did. A lot of Disney Plus series have that long movie syndrome. The Mandalorian does a good job of taking Din and Grogu to a new planet every week for a distinct adventure. Skeleton Crew has shown us several locations, so maybe each episode is a new place with a new challenge that takes them one step closer to home 1 week at a time. I would enjoy that. But I think that's all I've got to say about the trailer. Let me know what you think of Skeleton Crew in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.